Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. This time around I got a couple of things from Umbrella Entertainment which are really good. One of them is a sequel to a movie that came out last year, I think it was. And the other one took over 50 years to make. And it's fun, and it's very much the kind of thing that a lot of you, particularly people who like Ray Harryhausen movies, are going to dig. So let's get started with the other one. A year ago, a movie came out which was cashing in on an intellectual property that fell into the public domain, a very popular one that Disney had owned, and it was Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey, directed by Release Primeval. It was a low-budget horror film, a slasher film, a lot of blood and guts and gore, a little bit of gratuitous nudity. It hit big for the budget. The budget was low. It had a lot of controversy about it. It came out roughly the same time as the last Terrifier movie. And so it's in that humorous, over-the-top gore kind of thing, which is a new phase in horror movies these days. So that one came out, and it was popular enough to generate a sequel, and Umbrella Entertainment have just put out a collector's edition of Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2, directed by Release Primeval. And like the first one, it's in the format of a children's book, which is very cool. These things on the shelf look crazy back to back, like you've got children's books on your shelf, the kind of children's books that very sick children would own. So the first one, to be honest with you, even though it was over the top gore and it will appeal to a certain kind of audience, wasn't a great horror movie. This one's better, and there's one piece of it which is really, really good, and I'll tell you about that in a moment. So the story is that Christopher Robin has survived and he's dealing with the trauma of the events in the first movie, where Winnie the Pooh and Piglet basically got their revenge for the childhood trauma that they'd had inflicted on him and that Christopher Robin had inflicted on him. And so he's getting his ducks lined up. He's a young doctor in a hospital. He's very good with kids, and we see that in one of the moments. But Pooh and Piglet and Owl and now Tigger, because Tigger fell into a public domain just the start of this year, leave the 100 Acre Wood and go to the town of Ashdown to wreak their revenge on the people of the town. There's a title sequence of 3 young women in a camper van who are basically doing Ouija boards to try to contact Pooh, because the whole town knows that these murders occurred in the 100 Acre Wood. It's become a cause celeb. There was a movie made about the incident. At one stage, a little kid is watching the original movie as the fake movie within the movie. And the whole town's got this reputation now for being the town where this weird thing happened that people believe is done by a giant teddy bear. Some people believe it, some don't. Christopher Robin is a pariah in the town and loses his job at the hospital because people are uncomfortable around him because he insists this stuff actually happened in the first movie. And then the murders start again and things go from bad to worse. And Christopher Robin almost accidentally starts finding out the true backstory of Pooh and Piglet and Tigger and Owl after going through a breakthrough with his psychologist, where he remembers details of childhood trauma, including the fact that his brother was kidnapped by a man in a van and was never seen again, his brother Billy. As Christopher has this breakthrough, he sees the face of the man in his memory, and then he sees the man lurking around the hospital where he's worked. That man is a guy called Cavendish, played by Simon Callow, the great character actor Simon Callow, for whom I have an immense amount of respect. I'm going to go on a bit of a Simon Callow bit here. Simon Callow, in his book on being an actor, was one of the first English actors to come out of the closet, him and Ian McKellen. This was during the phase of English history when Margaret Thatcher was ruling the roost and was trying to put in place laws to criminalise, again, homosexuality and homosexual acts. And so he stood up at the right time and told people who he was. So I've got a lot of respect for Simon Callow. Fantastic character actor. Also, he's a great writer. He's written 3 books of biography of Orson Welles. Well, I've got 2 of them up there. I've got first one, Orson Welles. I've got the second one, Hello Americans. I don't have the third one, One Man Band. And I would really love to have a copy of Simon Callow's book, One Man Band, because I'm a big Orson Welles fan. But having said that, he comes in as Cavendish, and Christopher follows him back to his shitty little flat. And Cavendish is at the stage of his life where he wants to confess. And he confesses that he kidnapped the children for a scientist who was experimenting on them, and yada, yada, yada. I'm not going to go into the rest of it for you. But there's this one scene with Simon Callow in it, and the acting is first-rate, brilliant acting by Simon Callow playing this damaged and diminished character. He gives acting A game to this small piece he does for this shitty little horror movie, and it blew me away. Yes, I knew Simon Callow was a fantastic actor, but he gave his A game to this movie, and all respect to him for that. You take the coin, you give everything your best effort, and he did that. If there's a saving grace in this kind of English trauma-like movie, it's Simon Callow playing Cavendish. I love that. It was terrific. Now, living aside that Simon Callow love, the animals start attacking an underground rave party, which goes very gory and gutsy really soon. And it's done very well. Everything in this second movie is miles ahead of the first one. The cinematography is great. The directing's great. The acting's great. The gore effects are much, much better because they had a larger budget. Had a £500,000 budget, I think it was, for this one. It's ended up making $7.5 million since then, so it's doing quite well. Do I recommend this movie? If you like this kind of horror, absolutely go for it. It's really honest. Check out Simon Callow playing Cavendish. I recommend that. Now, let's talk about the package that Umbrella have put together for this, which I love. On the back, it's got reviews of the first movie, which are very negative reviews. They actually put them on there, which I liked the fact that they addressed it and went for it. It really is a lot of fun, that. Again, you've got the hard case designed like a book. Now, I'm going to take a photo and freeze frame the extras so you can see it. It's often hard to hold it up to the camera and do it justice. Special features are behind the score, behind the scenes Pooh, audition tapes, interviews, death scene extended, on-set footage, and behind the scenes on set for the rave party. So you get those. But in the package here, you get, of course, that different artwork there. And by the way, that is really well-produced artwork. Montage of images there. This one is Region B. It does say so there. Inside, you've got the reversible cover that gets rid of the Australian censorship classification. And you have the disc. You get a poster as well. And Umbrella is getting really well known for its posters. You get that one of the same artwork as in the inside cover. And you get that one. Winnie the Pooh with a flaming chainsaw, which he does use in the movie. It's not something that's been made up. By the way, the suspense in this second movie is a lot better than the suspense in the first one. You also get a children's book, Winnie the Pooh, The Sticky Story of a Bloody Pooh. I'm not going to show you the inside because it's got a lot of gory stuff. Written by Xavier Smith. Illustrated by Saoirse Wallace. I like that. I like the fact that they're leaning into this so hard. And we also get some art cards. I don't know how many of these I'm going to be able to show you because Auntie YouTube with her vapors. I can show you that one. There's Piglet. There's Tigger. And as you can see, the makeup is a lot better than the first one. I'll show you some more of these than I thought. There's Pooh. I like that silhouetted look. That's really good too. There is Christopher Robin and Pooh when they were children. That one's a bit gory, so I won't show you that one, but trust me, it's there. There's Owl, and Owl is a really friggin' menacing creature in this one, who can fly. There's Pooh. There's also some of the cartoon artwork. There they are as children. There's Tigger getting a leg up. I won't show you that one. There's Pooh's mugshot. And I won't show you the one with Owl. As most of you know, I don't believe in guilty pleasures in movies. I believe in vulgar pleasures. But I never believe in feeling guilty about watching movies. With the possible exception of Happy Gilmore. This one is a really nice package. And you can also buy the standard edition as well if you'd prefer not to get something that looks like a children's book in case you've got children. I can see a progression in this movie. There is a thing called the Poohniverse, which they're creating, where they're going to be putting other public domain creatures and creations into that universe, one of which is Pinocchio. And Pinocchio gets foreshadowed in this one. So that's going to be a lot of fun to enjoy. Again, not for everybody, but still, you can see a progressive improvement in the filmmaking. And that addition of putting a decent character actor like Simon Callow in there was a chef's kiss from me. And he's the most valuable player in the movie. So we've got that, and then we've got a science fiction movie 50 odd years in the making. Once upon a time, there was a filmmaker, an animator and special effects guy called David Allen, and he had a passion project which he shared with a number of his friends. Back in the late 1960s, David Allen, Dennis Muren, who later went on to work on Star Wars and a whole bunch of other stuff, and Jim Danforth, who was a master of stop-motion special effects. He did all of the stuff for Seven Faces of Dr. Lowe, along with Wah Chang. Really good stop-motion guy. And they developed a project that was going to be called Raiders of the Stone Ring. This is before Raiders of the Lost Ark was a thing. It was going to be basically an Edgar Rice Burroughs pastiche, involving a group of explorers in the 1920s who discover an unevolved Viking society that was threatened by a race of malevolent lizard men. This is from Wikipedia. They filmed a promo reel for it, but it didn't happen because people weren't buying that kind of stuff in the late 1960s. The project did come to the attention of Hammer Films, but according to Wikipedia, negotiations stalled as the studio morphed the project into a different unrealised movie called Zeppelin vs. Pterodactyl, and there was cover art done for that. In the 1970s, David Allen returned to the project, and he was going to make something called the Glacial Empire and Primordium, the Arctic World. He wrote an outline of the project in the 70s called the Primevals. In the late 70s, early 80s, he got involved with Charles Band and his company, which later became Full Moon Entertainment, and they were going to make it. There was a cover in Cinefantastique magazine for the project, but it stalled, and Band's Empire Pictures took it on, and David Allen spent a lot of his time trying to get funding for it. He took out a full-page ad in Variety magazine, but the project kind of stayed alive. And in 1994, Charles Band's Full Moon Entertainment filmed the movie. The principal photography was done in Romania and in the Dolomite Hills in Italy, and then Full Moon Entertainment collapsed there. Deal with Paramount Home Video fell through, and the movie went into limbo for a few decades. Now, unfortunately, David Allen died in 1999 at the age of 54. He was quite young. And years later, in 2018, Charles Band launched an Indiegogo campaign to raise finances to finish the movie and release it. They raised $40,000, but that was just nowhere near enough money to realise the project, which is a shame. Then a guy called Chris Endicott and a stop-motion animator called Kent Burton and a whole bunch of visual effects technicians, a lot of whom were friends with David Allen, finished the project on a pro bono basis. And in 2023, it was released at the Fantasia Film Festival. And now there is a Blu-ray release of it here in Australia. There are two versions of this. There's a standard edition with a slipcover, and there's a collector's edition, which I'm lucky enough to have here. There is the cover of it, and I love the artwork, by the way. I'll show you the artwork on the back as well. Beautiful watercolour artwork there. And there are a ton of special features, as you might suspect, with a project that took so long to come to fruition. I'll show you the physical extras before I show you the extras that are on the disc. Here's a slipcover, again with fantastic artwork. You slide the disc gently out of that. More fantastic artwork there. This is Region B, by the way. I believe there has been a US release of this. There's the back cover. Inside you've got the reversible cover to get rid of the Australian censorship stuff again, and the disc itself. And you get a poster, because of course you do. That artwork, which I love, that's just beautiful artwork. And a horizontal version of the other artwork. But there is more. There's a booklet with even more artwork on the front, with some essays about the Primevals. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Essay by Travis Johnson, so Travis got in on this one. Nice guy, Travis, I like him. There's some of the stills from the movie. I know I should get my fingers out of the way. Picturing stops at the start, because there is a lot of stop motion animation in it. That's an essay by Emma Westwood. There's some of the lizard men aliens who appear in this. So I watched the movie yesterday and I loved it.
It is perhaps the most important discovery of the century.
It's very much an old-fashioned movie. It plays like a movie from the 1950s with 1980s, 1990s technology in it. And the movie starts out with a group of Sherpas in the Himalayas fighting a rampaging Yeti, which is about 5 meters tall. And the Yeti is stop motion. And it's beautifully done. It moves really well. They cover the interactions between the humans and the stop motion monster incredibly fantastically. One guy gets killed by it, and an avalanche comes down and kills the Yeti. Then we cut to America, where a scientist played by Juliet Mills, the daughter of John Mills, Nanny from Nanny and the Professor, is a scientist who has had the body shipped to America, and they've done an autopsy on a Yeti, and they reveal the stuffed skin of the Yeti as a publicity thing to try to get funds to do an expedition on this. And a guy who had written a paper about Yetis, a young guy called Matt, meets the professor played by Juliet Mills, and she takes him backstage where they've got the fully articulated skeleton of a Yeti, where they've made a model of it, and the Yeti's brain in a glass jar. And they find out that somebody has done brain surgery on the Yeti to basically lobotomize it and stop it from fully realizing its true self. The Yetis are intelligent, but this one's had a lobotomy, and it's a mystery as to what happened and why the lobotomy was done. And so they decided to do an expedition in Kolkata, India. They find a guy called Rondo Montana, played by Leon Russell, who's an old safari guide who's stopped doing that because he didn't like to kill animals. And he takes them into the Himalayas, and they follow the tracks of the Yeti, and they find a really strange building and fall through the ice into a lost valley, which is green and lush. And at the center of the valley, they find Pithecanthropus pre-humans and the devolved descendants of a group of aliens that had landed in the valley millions of years ago. They find the spaceship. They find what the aliens actually look like because there's a hologram there. And they find their devolved descendants running basically gladiator. They have a couple of trained Yetis, one of whom's died, the other one hasn't, and they're using it as a way of doing gladiatorial combat against the Pithecanthropuses. So it's basically an old school Lost World adventure. The stop motion animation is fantastic, particularly on the Yeti, but also on the aliens. There's some really good stuff there. There's also some puppetry. There's also matte painting. There's forced perspective work. There's all this old school special effects technology that we had before we had computer-generated effects. And even for a movie of its era, it feels a little bit dated, but it feels like a love letter to old school Willis O'Brien, Ray Harryhausen stop-motion adventure movie making. They don't make movies like this anymore because they don't have to. But this one works well. Yes, the story is kind of basic, and the acting is not always great, though Juliet Mills, playing against type as a scientist, gets to do all the scientific gobbledygook dialogue. And if there's a weakness in this movie for me, it's the fact that I would have liked somebody to pop up the dialogue a little bit and make it just that little bit more interesting and a little bit more scientifically plausible. But this is something that's been going for over 50 years, and the script's been through a whole lot of revisions. And so I don't know that that was their priority. Their priority was to tell the story and get the special effects done. But the Primeval, like the Lost Valley, is a thing out of time. It's a thing that no longer exists, and it's a thing that we remember from the past fondly. Watching it, I had a smile on my face because old school stop motion animation in a Blu-ray, and one that I'd never seen before, indulged and amused my inner child. I got a little of the feel back that I got when I first saw The Valley of Gwangi in the cinema when I was a kid. There's something there which isn't just nostalgia, but it's also fondness for the craft of stop motion animation and puppetry and beautiful matte paintings and forced perspective and all of those wonderful tricks that filmmakers did to bring to the screen things that weren't otherwise able to be done. Now, this special edition has sold out. There were only 500 of them, and they sold out like ice cream on a hot day. But there is the standard edition available. So I'll put a link to the standard edition in the notes, along with a link to Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. But the extras on here, which I'm going to show you a snapshot of now as I speak about them, are extensive. Howard S. Berger on the Primevals and Lost films. Dark Dreamers Charles Band, and there's a thing about Charles Band here. Jamie and Aspasia Leonarda on Lost Monsters and Cryptozoology. A Celebration of Tenacity, Q&A, Industrial Light and Magic. Charles Band and David Allen on the Primevals, which is archival material. Randall William Cook visits the Primevals. The Primevals 1984 promo reel when they were trying to get the project going. Primevals 1997 promotional reel. Raiders of the Stone Ring promo reel from way back in the late 1960s. The Primevals time-lapse animation. The beginning and the end. David Allen at the Moviola. Primevals A False Start. And an alternative extended version of the feature plus a trailer. So there is a ton of stuff here. It's a love letter to old school filmmakers, a love letter to David Allen's vision for the movie. And it's a fun movie. It entertains a lot. And even though there are moments where it's clumsy, it really does deliver full value for your time. And if you are a fan of Ray Harryhausen movies or Willis O'Brien movies or anybody else who did stop motion animation, you're going to want at least a standard copy of this one, because the extras are choice. The movie itself is a lot of fun, and it is in that sweet spot of it's new but nostalgic, and I loved it for that. Really enjoyable. You should try to find a copy of this one, and I will post the link in the description. I've got 5 other things that Umbrella have sent me, but I'm saving them for the next video I do, because they're not science fiction or horror, so I can't do them for Science Fiction Saturday. But I can bring them to you. And there's some really cool stuff there. There's one 4K, which is really choice. 2 of them are Australian movies you may not have heard of. 2 of them are South Korean movies that are really great. And the other one is a 1960s John Schlesinger movie, which is really, really cool. So I'll save those to the next video. I haven't watched them yet, but I will watch them. And my new policy is, if I get any box sets from Umbrella or Entertainment or anybody else who wants to send them to me, I'm going to promise you that I will watch all of the movies before I review them. I haven't always done that in the past. I've reviewed the releases of the movie, but I will be for henceforth watching all the movies so I can review the whole lot as a package all at once. I think I owe that to Umbrella and Imprint and whoever else sends me things, and I also owe it to you as a viewer. So that's it for this time around. Great pair of movies. I enjoyed both of them in very, very, very different ways. So thanks a lot for watching. As usual, subscribe, hit the notification bell, give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think of these and whether you want to get them. And tell me what your favourite stop motion animation movie is as well. You can also support the channel by becoming a channel member, or else you can become a patron by donating at patreon.com/terrytalksmovies. And you get a few other things. You get my travel vlogs at least 2 weeks earlier than the normal part of the channel. And you get my monthly Spotify playlists of groovy music. So as I said, the next video I do is going to be the other Umbrella movies, which are really cool. And I'm looking forward to watching them tomorrow and Sunday. So until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch some bad movies that are enjoyable, watch some good movies that aren't perfect. The world is full of nuance. And I'll catch you next time.